I should have turned back the moment we stepped into that barn, but curiosity can be louder than fear. Back then, I was deeply into urban exploring, not the casual kind where you take a few photos from outside and leave. I needed to see everything, every room, every corner, every hidden space. If a place was abandoned, I wanted to understand its story from the inside out. This place wasn't well known at the time. Today, people call it Stone Castle or Osler Castle, and there are plans to restore it. But when I first went, it felt forgotten, like the world had quietly erased it. My boyfriend at the time found it while working on a roof in Oro-Medonte, Ontario. He spotted the property sitting far back from the road, high on a hill. From a distance, it looked almost magical, a stone shell of a house, surrounded by old farm buildings. So that weekend we drove out to see it. The property was beautiful in a way that didn't feel real. Open land, quiet air, and that strange stillness you only get in places people have abandoned for a long time. You could easily imagine a family once living there, laughing, working, building a life. But now, it was empty. The main house had burned down years before. Only the outer stone walls remained, like a hollow shell. Through a basement window you could see pieces of the past, an old stove, broken debris, things frozen in time. Around the property were three main structures, a large barn, a carriage house, and a stable farther back. Naturally, I wanted to explore all of them. My boyfriend wasn't thrilled. He was more of a look and leave type, but I wasn't about to drive an hour just to stand outside and wonder. We started with the barn. At first it was exactly what you'd expect. Dust, old wood, broken beams. We explored both levels, moving slowly, listening to every creak under our feet. It felt normal, almost peaceful. Then we found the basement. The second we stepped down there, the atmosphere changed. It wasn't just abandoned anymore, it felt wrong. The walls were covered in strange symbols and dark drawings, not random graffiti. These were deliberate, repeated patterns. There was an altar set up in the center, with black candles melted down to stubs. And then we saw the knife. It was sitting on the altar. The blade was stained dark, like it had been used for something it shouldn't have been used for. Nearby was a bottle filled with a thick liquid that smelled metallic. I remember looking at my boyfriend, expecting him to laugh it off, but he didn't. His face had gone completely serious. The worst part was the silo. Someone had turned it into a makeshift cage. Chains hung from inside, clinking slightly as air moved through the space. That's when he said we needed to leave, right then. But I didn't listen. I told him it was probably just kids trying to scare people. People do weird things in abandoned places all the time, right? I convinced him to keep going. I still think about that decision. Next we headed to the stable at the back of the property. I opened the door. The smell hit me instantly. Rot, heavy, thick, and impossible to ignore. Inside, the floor was covered with bodies, animals. Dogs, cats, rabbits, even larger ones like foxes and coyotes. All of them were badly mutilated. I can't fully describe it, and honestly, I wouldn't want to. It was the worst thing I had ever seen in my life. That's when everything changed. My boyfriend didn't argue this time. He grabbed my arm and said we were leaving immediately. No debate, no discussion. And this time, I agreed. We turned and started heading back toward the hill where we had parked. But on the way, I made one last mistake. I told him I wanted to quickly check the carriage house. He refused. Completely. He told me there was no way he was going near another building. Then he started walking back toward the car, expecting me to follow. I didn't. Instead, I went around the hill alone and slipped into the carriage house. It was empty. Nothing unusual. Just dust and old wood. For once, there was nothing there. And strangely, that might have saved us. Because as I stepped back outside and looked toward the hill, I saw them. A group of people, at least 8 of them. They were surrounding our car. The first one I noticed was a man holding a baseball bat. He had our car door open and was going through our things, clearly looking for something, probably the keys. The others were spread out nearby. Some were adults, others looked like teenagers. A few were even younger. Every single one of them was holding something, a stick, a golf club, a bat, weapons. I yelled without thinking. I demanded to know what he was doing in our car. That's when everything moved fast. My boyfriend came running over the hill, straight toward them. He didn't hesitate. He just charged through the group to get to me. The moment he did, something shifted. They weren't expecting that. They backed off. Some of them even tried to hide their weapons behind their backs, like that would somehow make the situation normal. The man with the bat asked what we were doing there. I fired back, asking why he was going through our car. He didn't answer. He just stared. My boyfriend stepped in and calmly said we were just leaving, that we had been looking at the property and didn't realize anyone was using it. There was a long pause. Then, somehow, they let us go. We got into the car and drove off without looking back. But it wasn't over. About a minute later, a black pickup truck pulled out behind us. No license plate. They followed us for 20 minutes, close enough that we knew it wasn't a coincidence. We didn't go home. We drove straight to the nearest city, Barrie, and went directly to the police. Even the officer we spoke to looked unsettled after hearing everything. After that day, my boyfriend refused to go anywhere near that area again. He even had someone else finish his roofing job. As for me, I wanted to go back, but I couldn't find anyone willing to go with me. And deep down, I think I knew that was for the best. We kept exploring other places after that, but something had changed. We were more careful, more aware. We both started carrying knives. I still do, even now. Years later, I haven't heard of anyone else experiencing what we did there. Maybe we just went at the wrong time, or maybe the right time. Recently, my cousin, also an explorer, reached out to me. She found a place she wants to visit. When she told me where it was, I felt that same cold feeling all over again. The same hill, the same stone walls, the same place people now call Osler Castle. We're planning to go, and I can't stop thinking about one question. What if they're still there? I knew something was wrong the moment he smiled, but I didn't understand how bad it would get until it was almost too late. I was 15 at the time, living in Orinda, California, and like every other teenager at my high school, I had to complete driver's education to graduate. Part of that meant logging 8 hours behind the wheel with a certified driving instructor. Most of us used the same company. They would come right to your house, pick you up and let you drive for an hour in a special car with dual controls. It was simple, convenient, and for parents, much safer than handing over their own cars. My mom scheduled all 8 of my sessions. The only problem was I already knew how to drive. I had been sneaking out at night for months, taking short drives while my mom worked late. So sitting through beginner lessons felt like a complete waste of time. But I didn't have a choice. On the first day, I waited outside for the instructor. When he pulled up, I felt a weird sense of disappointment right away. I don't know what I expected. Maybe someone younger, more normal. But instead, he gave off an uncomfortable vibe almost instantly. Still, I got in the car. At first, everything seemed routine. He explained the extra brake pedal on his side, made small talk, and told me to start driving. Within 5 minutes, it was obvious I knew what I was doing. That's when things started to shift. He laughed and made a comment that didn't quite sit right, something about how I seemed good at more than just driving. At the time, I didn't fully understand what he meant, so I brushed it off. Then he suggested something strange. He said since I didn't really need lessons, we could just go get food to pass the time, and for some reason I agreed. We went through a drive-through and parked to eat. While we sat there, he kept complimenting me, my looks, my body, the way I carried myself. At first, I awkwardly accepted it, not fully processing how inappropriate it was, but slowly it started to feel wrong. By the time he dropped me off, I felt uneasy, but not enough to say anything. The next day, he came back. When I got in the car, he handed me a gift, a shell necklace. It looked old, like something you'd find at a beach shop, but I thanked him anyway, trying to be polite. Then he told me to just drive and follow his directions. We got on the freeway. That immediately felt off. We were supposed to stay close to my house within a certain distance, but he kept directing me farther and farther away, through a tunnel, into another city, up into the hills. Eventually we reached a remote winding road with almost no traffic. That's when everything changed. Without warning, he pressed his brake pedal, slowing the car down in the middle of nowhere. Then he put his hand on my leg. At first I froze. My brain didn't want to accept what was happening, but when his hand started moving higher, something snapped inside me. I slammed my foot on the gas. The car jerked forward as his brake fought against my acceleration. The engine strained, but it was enough to create movement. I told him to take his hand off me. He laughed, like it was a joke. That made me angrier. I told him if he didn't stop, I would drive straight into the opposite lane on a blind curve. I said I didn't care what happened next, and I meant it. I actually started turning the wheel. That's when he finally pulled back. He acted like I was overreacting, like it had all been harmless. I didn't say another word. I just drove. The entire way back he kept talking, trying to downplay everything, but I ignored him. The second we reached my house, I got out and ran inside. This time I told my mom everything. She called the company immediately. He was fired. Apparently I wasn't the first complaint. For a few days I thought it was over. Then I saw him again. He showed up at one of my swim meets, just standing there, watching, but the moment my coach started walking toward him, he disappeared. A few days after that, he ran into me at a restaurant where I was meeting my mom. He started walking toward me, and I felt panic rise instantly, but as soon as my mom joined me, he turned and left. We called the police, but nothing really came of it. It felt like he was hovering just outside of reach. 2 months later, my best friend had to start her driving lessons with the same company. We joked about it, told her to watch out for weird instructors. I was at her house the day her first lesson was scheduled. We were hanging out near the pool, up on the balcony, when the car pulled into her driveway. She grabbed her bag and headed downstairs to answer the door. I stayed behind. At first I wasn't paying attention. Then something made me look down. The driver was getting out of the car, and my stomach dropped. It was him, the same man. He had come back, and this time he was there for my friend. She was seconds away from opening the door. I didn't think, I just acted. I leaned over the balcony and shouted down at him, loud enough to echo through the yard. I told him I recognized him. I told him the police were coming. I told him to leave. He looked up, saw me, and everything changed. For a split second his expression wasn't friendly or fake anymore. It was angry. Then he ran, jumped back into the car and sped off before my friend even reached the door. She hadn't seen him yet. She had no idea how close she had come. We called the police immediately. This time things moved faster. While we were explaining what happened, another driving instructor from the same company arrived, the real one. That's when everything started to fall into place. The company told the police that one of their cars had been stolen weeks earlier. They hadn't connected it to anything until now. The man had been using that car, pretending to still be an instructor, using old appointment records to find students, to find us. Not long after, the police found him. He was arrested inside the stolen car, and what they found inside it made everything worse. There was a knife, rope, and photos, pictures of me and my friends. He had been watching, planning, following. They later told us he had used a fake identity to get the job in the first place. He was already wanted in another state for a serious assault. He was sent back there to face charges. I never found out what happened after that, but sometimes I still think about that day. If I hadn't looked down from the balcony, if I hadn't been there at all, if she had opened that door just a few seconds earlier, things could have ended very differently. And that's the part that never really leaves you, how close it came. The moment I saw his face pressed against the glass, inches from mine, I knew I wasn't alone in that house anymore. I had just moved to the UK from Ireland for university. It was my first time living away from home, and like many students, I rented a shared house with a couple of others. It was a typical narrow terrace house, nothing fancy, but it did the job. There was just one detail that always felt a little off. My bedroom was downstairs. What used to be the front living room had been converted into a bedroom to fit more tenants. That meant my door opened directly to the street. No front yard, no real buffer, just a short path and then the sidewalk. At first I didn't mind it. It was convenient and I got used to the sounds outside. Over time, I learned the difference between someone casually walking past and someone stepping up to the door. That detail would matter later. One weekend, both of my housemates went away. That was unusual, but I didn't think much of it. I figured I'd enjoy the quiet. By late that night though, the silence started to feel heavy. Around 1 a.m., I was lying in bed, on the phone with my boyfriend back home. We were long distance, so late night calls were normal for us. That's when I heard it. Footsteps, not passing by, stopping, right outside my door. I paused mid-sentence and listened. There was a subtle difference, hard to explain, but once you notice it, you can't ignore it. Whoever it was wasn't just walking past. They were right there. Then came the sound that made my chest tighten. The door handle. It moved slightly. like someone testing it. I told my boyfriend to stay on the line and slowly got out of bed. My heart was already racing, but I needed to know who was out there. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe someone had the wrong house. I stepped toward the window, carefully pulled the curtain aside and leaned closer to see through the darkness. The street lights were off, so it was almost completely black outside. I pressed my face closer to the glass, trying to make out any shape or movement. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then it hit me. There was a face right there, pressed against the window, mirroring me, hands against the glass, face inches from mine, watching. I couldn't scream. It felt like all the air had been knocked out of me. My body went cold, like I had been dropped into freezing water. I couldn't see his features clearly, but I knew it was a man. He was wearing a hoodie, the shadow hiding most of his face. For a second, we just stared at each other. Then he ran, disappeared into the darkness as quickly as he had appeared. I stumbled back, trying to breathe, trying to process what had just happened. My boyfriend was still on the phone, asking what was wrong, but I couldn't answer right away. When I finally did, my voice didn't sound like my own. I called the police immediately. They arrived after a while, though it felt like hours. They checked the area, walked up and down the street, but there was nothing to find. No sign of him, no evidence, just gone. They told me to keep my doors locked and call again if anything else happened. That was it. No explanation, no answers, and the worst part, I couldn't understand why he had been there. The light in my room had been on. Even with the curtains closed, it would have been obvious someone was inside. That ruled out the idea that he thought the house was empty. So why try the door? Why stand there watching? That night I didn't sleep at all. I stayed in bed with the lights on, my laptop open, playing random videos just to fill the silence. Every small sound made my heart jump. I kept imagining him coming back, standing there again, waiting. The next night wasn't any better, or the night after that. Sleep became something I avoided. It felt safer to stay awake, to stay aware. I would sit up until early morning, only closing my eyes when daylight started creeping in. The house didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt exposed. Every time I looked at the window, I pictured his face pressed against it. Every shadow outside made me tense. What made it worse was how alone I was. My family was back in Ireland. I couldn't just go stay with someone I trusted. I was stuck there, counting down the hours until my housemates returned. That weekend felt endless. When they finally came back, I told them everything. They tried to reassure me, said it was probably just someone drunk or messing around, but deep down I knew that wasn't it. There was something intentional about the way he moved, the way he stood there, the way he didn't run until he saw me. After that, I changed small things. I double-checked the locks every night. I kept the curtains tightly closed. I avoided looking outside after dark, because even now, I can't shake the feeling that if I look out into the darkness long enough, something might be looking back. He didn't just notice me, he studied me, like I was something he owned before I even knew his name. Back in 2013, I was working at a garden center near a quiet countryside village. It was a simple job, retail, helping customers, watering plants, the kind of place where regulars came in almost every day, and you got to know people by face if not by name. Most of them were lovely. We even gave some of them nicknames. There was an older woman with bright pink hair who wore leather jackets and didn't care what anyone thought. A sweet couple with a colorful camper van who always stopped by for tea. And then there was him. We called him the artist. He stood out in a way that made people uncomfortable without immediately knowing why. Late 40s, maybe older, always wore a straw hat, round glasses, and clothes that looked like they hadn't been properly cleaned in a while. His shirts often had strange or inappropriate designs, and his jeans were always ripped and dirty. But it wasn't just how he looked. It was the way he looked at people, especially the younger girls who worked there. There was always this half smile on his face, like he knew something you didn't. And he had this habit of taking off his glasses and slowly cleaning them while staring, as if trying to get a clearer view. The first time he approached me, I was outside watering hanging baskets. It was a hot day, quiet, and I was working alone. He stepped out from behind a row of wooden frames so suddenly it made me jump. "Hello," he said, dragging out the word as his eyes moved up and down. I asked if he needed help. He said no, just stood there, smiling. Then he started commenting on how I looked, my tan, my body, how young I seemed. It was uncomfortable, but I tried to stay polite and end the conversation quickly. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. He started coming in more often, always around the same time, my shift. At first I told myself it was coincidence, but then I noticed a pattern. He would find small, meaningless items to buy, things no one really needed, just enough to justify coming to the register, to talk to me. That's when it got worse. He started remembering things, not normal things, specific things. You wore your hair differently yesterday. Those are new glasses. That's not the same lipstick as last time. Every detail, every change. He said my name a lot too, loudly, clearly, like he wanted to remind me that he knew it. It made my skin crawl. One day, near Christmas, I was working at the back of the store, decorating artificial trees. It was quiet, and the aisles were empty. I didn't hear him coming. He suddenly stepped out from behind one of the trees. I jumped so hard I dropped a glass ornament, and it shattered on the floor. Before I could react, he grabbed my wrist, hard, too hard. He told me not to touch the broken glass, but his grip wasn't about helping, it felt controlling. I pulled away, trying to keep my voice steady, asking if he needed anything. That's when he handed me a flyer. He said he was an artist, and had a show coming up. Then he leaned closer and said the invitation wasn't for the public, it was just for me. As he said it, he reached out and pressed his finger against my chest. That was the moment everything crossed a line. I stepped back immediately, and told him I had plans with my boyfriend. Then I left as quickly as I could. After that I told my coworkers. They took it seriously. We agreed that if he came in again they would warn me so I could avoid him. For a while, that system worked. Until one day it didn't. A temporary staff member came up to me and said, "Your friend is asking for you at the register." I didn't think twice. I walked over, and there he was, waiting, holding a folded piece of paper. I felt that familiar tension in my chest, but I couldn't just walk away. He had already seen me. He handed me the paper and told me to open it, so I did. It was a drawing of me. But not just any drawing. It was exaggerated, distorted, sexualized in a way that made my stomach turn. It showed me in a pose I had never made, wearing the same outfit I had worn while working outside. He had been watching, closely. I handed it back immediately, telling him I couldn't accept it. For the first time his expression changed. The smile disappeared. He looked angry. Then he turned and walked out without saying a word. That was the last time I saw him in person, but it didn't end there. I reported everything to my manager. He reviewed the security footage and agreed the situation was serious. He promised to deal with it if the man returned. The next day, I wasn't working. That's when my manager called me. Someone had contacted corporate, an anonymous complaint, about me. According to the caller, I had been inappropriate with a customer. That I had made advances, offered things I shouldn't have, and had been pursuing him for over a year. It was detailed, completely fabricated, but detailed. Corporate didn't believe it, especially since my manager had already documented concerns about this man. Still, they advised me to report it to the police, so I did. When I described him, the officer immediately recognized the pattern. He said this man was known locally, a repeat problem, someone who harassed young women, followed them, and had even attempted something far worse years before. They took it seriously. I was told he was not allowed near the store or near me again. If he showed up, I was to call immediately. For a moment, I thought that was the end. Then a letter arrived, addressed to me. It was filled with angry, rambling sentences, accusations, threats, and demands. He wrote that I would regret rejecting him, that I needed to accept his gift. That letter was enough. The police treated it as direct harassment. They found him, and this time he was arrested. I never saw him again after that. But even now, years later, I still think about how easily it started. A simple job, a regular customer, a few strange comments, and then suddenly, you realize you weren't just being noticed, you were being watched.